I'm hearing an echo now, so I wonder if that's.
I think we're getting close, Madam Chair, but unless Marisol, you're also keeping track, I think we're one short.
Okay, well, just let me know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on phones. I don't know if you heard Judge Samaniego, he is on the phone. So there are several others that may be on the phone.
Hey, Eduardo, just out of curiosity, I noticed up on the left-hand corner, it's being recorded, but it shows it's been recorded for 53 minutes so far. Was there a prior meeting or something, or?
No.
Yeah, because it shows it's been recorded for 53 minutes so far.
I actually just started now, but I guess it's into what I've been on this call for 53 minutes.
Oh, okay. I was just looking at, I said, well, maybe I missed some training or something.
No.
Madam Chair, you don't have any external speakers attached to your system? Is that correct?
I do, and that's why I don't understand what's going on.
We have quorum now.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we have quorum. Okay, let's go and proceed with I'm calling the meeting to order, and then if we can do roll call.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So again, good morning, everybody. This is Eduardo with the MPO. We're going to do a roll call on alphabetical order. So if you can please unmute your speaker or your phone when it's your turn so that we can hear your response. So starting with the chair, Ortega.
Present.
Vice Chair Walter Miller.
Present.
Mayor Antonio Araujo. Mayor Ivy Avalos. All right. Senator Cesar Blanco. Okay. Senator Joseph Cervantes. All right. Trent Doolittle.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Art Fierro. Rep Art Fierro. I think I see you.
Present. Good morning.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Representative Mary Gonzalez.
Present. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you. City Manager Tommy Gonzalez. Okay. Representative Cassandra Hernandez.
Present.
Thank you. Yvette Hernandez.
Good morning. Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Ileana Holguín.
Good morning, everyone. Present.
Thank you. Representative Raimundo Lara. Okay. Mayor Leeser.
Good morning.
Thank you. Mayor Leos. Representative Cecil Lizárraga.
Happy spring and happy birthday to Representative Rivera today. Present.
Thank you. Chuck McMahon.
Good morning. I'm present.
Thank you. Representative Joe Moody.
Present.
Thank you. Alderman Esteban Olivas. Representative Claudia Ordaz Perez. Okay. Norma Palacios.
Good morning. Present.
Thank you. Mayor Javier Perea.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Henry Rivera.
Present.
Happy birthday. Sam Rodriguez.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Benjamin Romero. Okay. Judge Ricardo Samaniego.
Buenos días. Present.
Thank you. Ellen Smythe.
Present.
Thank you. Tomás Treviño.
Present.
And Mayor Diana Trujillo. Okay, so we do have quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there anybody who is listed for public comment?
No, ma'am, there's no public comment.
All right, then let's go ahead and move on our agenda. Item 1.
Okay, so item 1 is discussion and action to approve the minutes of the February 19, 2021 El Paso MPO TPB meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I've got a change for that. My staff was listed with Mayor Leeser, as minor as it is, but I was told I needed to inform you of that. So we could. Priscilla
We need a
Contreras should be under.
motion to amend the agenda item. Are you moving to?
Yes, ma'am. I moved to list Priscilla Contreras under District 7, Representative Rivera.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Not really. Nice.
Second, Palacios.
Okay. Any discussion?
Ian?
Hearing no discussion, is there anyone that is against the motion? Or not in favor?
David, you there?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Okay.
Brett Miller has his mic on.
All right, is there anyone?
I think we lost her.
Madam Chair, I think we lost you there.
All right, okay, let me, I'm not sure when you lost me.
We can hear you now.
Great. Is there anyone that is not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved and it passes, and we can now go to item number 2.
All right, so items 2 and 3 are discussion and action to approve recommendations from the Executive Committee to accept Executive Director's annual performance assessment for year 2020. And item 3, extend the term of the Executive Director's employment agreement for a 1-year period from April 1, 2021 to March 31st, 2022, and that the Executive Director's base salary be increased by 4%.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Calvo. We will take each item separately. So at this time, I'm open to a motion to approve or to consider item number 2.
I move to approve, and this is Cassandra Hernandez.
Second, Lizarraga.
Okay, so there is a motion and a second. Is there if anybody that wants to discuss item number 2 on the agenda, and if there is any discussion that you believe that needs to be taken up in executive session, please announce that before we start the discussion. And I apologize, but I'm getting a really bad echo on my end. I don't hear anybody asking to discuss the item. So then at this point, I would ask, is anyone not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, then the motion is approved and it passes. We will now go to item 3 of our agenda, and that is, there's 2 things under this item, in that we would be extending the executive director's employment agreement for a one-year period from April 1st of this year to March 31st of 2022. And it was the recommendation of the executive committee to increase his salary by 4%. So at
Chair.
this time, I would take
sorry,
on a
Chair.
motion to, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you bring down the volume in your computer so you don't have that echo.
I will do that.
Madam Chair, this is Cassandra Hernandez. I move to approve item number 3.
Second, Rep. Rivera.
Thank you. Okay, I hear a motion to approve and a second. Is that better now that I've turned down the volume on my computer?
Not really.
No.
All right,
I
I am
think-
so sorry.
Madam
Then,
Chair,
is
if you
there
want to try
anyone?
if you want to try to mute the speaker in your computer or the microphone.
I have my microphone completely off.
Okay.
Okay, so is there anyone that wants to discuss the item number 3? I would probably need to disconnect the computer and just stay on my phone. Is there any problems with me doing that? Okay, seeing that if Eduardo, there shouldn't be any, right?
I don't think so. I mean, if you leave the Teams meeting, then we will not see you, but you will be having audio. And Sergio Estrada, that's not a problem, right?
Is everybody hearing this terrible
Yes.
background noise?
Yes, ma'am.
I would recommend that we just continue with the action items. There's a motion to approve and a second on item number 3.
Okay.
If we can just, get the vote on that and then continue through all the action items. While we can hear the echo, Chair, I think we're better served if we just push through the meeting and then get through all of the action items.
Okay, then I will do that. So then on item number 3, again, if there is any discussion where any policy board member believes that we should go into executive session, please let me know. So now I'm opening it up for discussion and action. Okay. Yeah. Is there anybody that wants to comment on this item without going into executive action? Then I open it up then.
I'd like
For
to
any
comment on
comments.
it, Madam Chair. This is Oscar.
Yes, go ahead, Mayor.
I have not had the opportunity to work with Eduardo for the past year, but I can tell you when we were in the meeting the other day, the words and the gratitude and the satisfaction of the members was really good to hear, and how everyone's been working together, and it's really gotten a lot accomplished. And I was very glad to hear all the great comments. And Eduardo, congratulations on your accomplishments, because I can tell you that when we were in executive session discussing it, the comments that people gave and all the members of the executive team were so complimentary of the job you've done, and I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for the kind words.
Does anybody else want to address this item? Okay, then I want to echo what the mayor just said. I think that our executive director has done an excellent job for the MPO, and there was overwhelming support in order to increase his base salary to 4%. And I should add that this was not the percent that the executive director was asking. This was action completely by the executive committee. So at this time, is there anyone who is not in favor of the motion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead and proceed. I think that's Judge Samanego.
Yes, it is. No, I just want to say that I've been in a lot of, with my background in HR, in a lot of assessments like that, and I was just so proud of the just the consistency and the respect for the work that Eduardo has accomplished, and what, you know, the things that before, but also that sort of that excitement about where he can take us and how he can guide us into some of the areas that were almost impossible for El Paso. We didn't seem to break through some of these barriers to bring El Paso transportation-wise to where I think we could go. And so I just feel very confident that his knowledge and background will allow us to get into some of the areas that El Paso has been sort of waiting for a long, long time to happen. And I think that we're there. Also, yesterday, I want to thank Eduardo at our commissioners meeting to be present like always, and add that, you know, the different dimensions because of his background. So just want to thank Eduardo, but also I want to thank the entire board, because I think if you look around and the you know, how we collaborate, how we work together, and the excitement of taking El Paso to where we should be, I think we have a great future ahead of us in the area of transportation. So, Eduardo, thank you, and all the board members for everything that you do, and the executive committee. Thank you for all of that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Judge Samanego, for your comments. Anybody else that wants to be recognized? All right, hearing no more discussion, is there anyone who is not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, then the motion is approved and passes. We are now going to turn to item 4 on our agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before we move on, I just want to thank everybody for the support, the kind words, and I really appreciate it. So looking forward to at least another year serving as the executive director. So thank you very much. So moving on to the next items, discussion and action to approve recommendations from the Transportation Project Advisory Committee to item 4, amend the Destino 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan MTP, amended Destino 2045 MTP, Destino 2019 to 2023 Transportation Improvement Program TIP, and Destino 2021-2024 TIP 2A, amend the New Mexico 404 widening project to reduce National Highway Performance Program funds and add National Highway Freight Program funds in fiscal year 22. And B, deprogram the Booth Road widening operational improvements project using Border State infrastructure funds in fiscal year 2022. Recommendation from staff, Madam Chair, is to take A and B together. And again, we have the TPAC chair, Greg McNichol, presenting the items.
Good morning, Greg.
All right, so let us at this point, my understanding is we need to have a motion to consider the items before we have the discussion or the presentation. Is there a motion to
move to consider?
Yes.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second, Lizarraga.
Is there Representative Lizarraga? Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
With the second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there anyone not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, then we will proceed with the discussion with A and B.
Good morning, Greg McNichol from the chairman of the TPAC committee. Items 4A and B are pretty straightforward. In this case, item 4A, I know that New Mexico is looking to change the source of funds on the project. And then item B is pretty straightforward again. I'll turn the floor over to New Mexico if there's any additional comments they want to make.
Madam Chair, this is Trent.
Please proceed.
So on item A, Mr. Nickel is correct. That one we received some additional funding through our legislative program, so we're just cleaning that up. And then item B, that's work that we were trying to do. We actually had a project designed and ready to go, but because of CBP potentially moving the permanent exit, we are going to do that work internally. So this is just to deprogram that project.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Hearing none, then is there now a motion to approve the amendments? That's to item 4A and B.
Motion to approve, Rep. Regatta.
This is a second.
Thank you.
Miller.
Thank you. Is there anyone not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, then the motion is approved and passes. And now we can move on to item 5 and 6. And so I need a motion for discussion of do we want to take these together or separately, Mr. Calvo?
No, Madam Chair, let me read item 5 into the record, which is to adopt the revised PM2 and PM3 midpoint targets for Texas. Correct?
I think they need a motion to consider.
Motion to consider.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, then we will proceed with consideration of item 5.
Thank you, Greg McNichol, Chairman of the TPAC. Item adopt and revise PM2 and PM3 midpoint targets for Texas. Part of the processes of adopting these is we need to go back and review them at times and correct them and bring them up, adjust the targets as necessary. I believe that in our case, I know we had the MPO make a presentation to us. Is that going to be the case today also, Eduardo?
Given that these are TPAC recommendations, I mean, we are on standby if there are any questions. If not, I think, Chair, unless anybody has any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Hearing none, then I would now take a motion to approve item 5.
So moved, Lizárraga.
Second, Oscar.
A second? Thank you. Is there anyone who is not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved and passes. Mr. Calvo, item 6.
Okay, item 6 is to approve the March 2021 project readiness report and potential corresponding impacts to the MPOs, TIP, and MTP.
Is there a motion to discuss item 6?
Move to consider. This is Miller.
Second, Lizárraga.
Thank you. You can proceed now with the discussion.
Yes, Greg McNichol, Chairman again with the TPAC. On the last item we have for you today is the approval of the March 2021 project readiness report. I did want to comment on the process that we're doing now of revising the projects on a quarterly basis and reviewing them. I think has really brought a lot of good benefit to this and making sure projects are moving forward. I know the last time I reported these, we had very few projects to report, and we're in the same case again this time. We have one project in the low category. City of El Paso Rojas widening, I believe. It's on your first page. It is one of them that's also a part of our RMS 2020 program. Just as again, it is just a low alert. So that's a good one. And then moving on, there's one medium. It's a tech stock project, FM 1905. It shows up now here. And again, I know that there's a lot of good communication taking place internally, trying to make sure these projects stay on track. And then there's one high alert. It's the City of El Paso Rio Grande Trail project. And there are comments there that primarily getting some of the reviews accomplished so that this project stays on track. And again, I know there's good communication taking place between the city and the MPO, trying to make sure that these projects don't stay in their funding years correctly. Again, I recommend to you all that you approve this project readiness report. And staff and MPO staff and myself are ready to answer any questions you might have.
Hearing no questions, is there a motion to approve item 6?
Motion to approve, Representative.
Thank you. A second?
Second, Commissioner Holguin.
Thank you. Is there anyone not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved and it passes. Now we can turn to reports and discussion. Item 7.
Okay. Item 7 is the annual listing of obligated projects. And I believe we have Gabby Lopez with a quick presentation on this.
Yes, good morning. This is Gabriela Lopez with the El Paso MPO. The annual listing of obligated projects is something that is required by the Code of Federal Regulations for the MPOs to do. So basically what it is that every year we have to report all the projects that had funds obligated within that fiscal year. And the requirement is to do it 90 days after the end of the fiscal year. So 90 days after the fiscal year 2020 ended, we are supposed to have this available in our website. During this past year, we did have a bit of a delay in the coordination with the entities that were going to submit the annual listing or the projects that their entity obligated funds to. And that is the reason why we're presenting this in March. So the ALOP, annual listing of obligated projects, was available in our website by December 30th, which is the deadline. However, it was pending the information from TxDOT. So now we do have all the information from all the entities. If this is the introduction, which talks a bit of what an actual obligated project list is for and what obligation is defined by FHWA. And if we scroll down, we see that there was a total of 217,737,774 funds obligated in transportation projects in fiscal year 2020. And we do break that number into the funds that were obligated for bicycle and pedestrian projects in El Paso County, how much was obligated in Doña Ana County, and so on. So it's very useful for the public to know how much funds were actually obligated for projects. And if we scroll down a bit more, we will find the maps of where these projects are located, and this is to help everyone have a better visualization of which projects have had funds obligated. So the first one is our active transportation projects, which include transit, pedestrian enhancements, and bicycle projects. And then the next map includes all the highway projects. So these are the ones that are for our roads, highways, etc. So if there's any questions, we will open it up for questions.
And again, if I can add, Madam Chair, again, this is in our website, and you all, the board members and the public and anybody can go in and take a look at them, review the list, and any comments, please send them over our way to MPO so that we can, discuss or answer any questions regarding that. But the important thing is that it's on the website.
Thank you. Hearing no question, we can move on to item 8.
Okay. Item 8 is a status update on the use of Federal Highway Administration funds transferred to Federal Transit Administration, FTA, for Sun Metro projects. So we have a brief presentation by Sun Metro staff. I'm sorry, Ellen, is somebody going to be presenting this on your end?
Mr. Calvo, are you going to proceed with the presentation, or do we need a motion to postpone?
I don't see anybody from Sun Metro. Ellen, I think I see you, but perhaps, I mean, this is, I mean, it's important information, but I think it can wait for next month, Madam Chair. So if we're not ready with that, perhaps we can table it for next month.
Okay, is there a motion to table item 8 until next month?
Madam Chair, if it's a report, I don't know that we need a motion, that we can just bring it back. It's not an action item anyway, so.
Sergio, is that correct?
Yes, I agree with that. We can just move on with the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds
All
good.
right, let's move on to item 9.
Okay, item 9 is a presentation on Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, CRRMA activities. Raymond?
Good morning. Thank you, Eduardo. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Raymond Tellez. I'm with the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. And I have been asked to brief you all on the Regional Mobility Authority and our recent activities. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about the agenda. So I'm going to be very brief today. I'm going to really focus on items number 1 and number 2, regional mobility authorities in general, what they are, what they can do. And then in number 2, we'll talk about this particular RMA here in El Paso, the Camino Real RMA. We'll talk about what we've been involved in and also what we can do. And I should have started out with the point, the intent behind this presentation is really to introduce the Regional Mobility Authority to some of the newer Transportation Policy Board members, and also to reintroduce ourselves to some of those members that have been around for a little while, but we haven't spoken in some time. So really the point here is to explain who we are, what we can do, what we're involved in, and that sort of thing. And then I think, obviously, if anybody has any questions, feel free to stop me along the way. Otherwise, my contact information is at the back end of this slide, and I'd be happy to meet with you individually or with your respective governing boards, and we can get into a little bit more detail. But again, we'll speak generally about RMAs, and then we'll delve a little more deeply into this particular RMA. But being respectful of your time, I will be very brief. So if we'll go to the next slide, we can talk about RMAs generally. So an RMA is a political subdivision of the state of Texas. Really fancy way of saying we're just a governmental body. We are a political entity, so we are public. We are intended to develop, operate, and maintain transportation projects. That's a really important term, and as it relates to RMAs. Transportation project is a defined term within the statute that creates RMAs. And there you'll see in the second bullet how broadly a transportation project is defined. So it includes everything from highways and roadways, and that's including toll and non-toll, rail, ferries, airports, pedestrian and bicycle paths, parking structures, international hubs, border crossing inspection stations, mass transit systems, and tramways. And I'll note that last one is particularly interesting. We worked with our delegation last legislative session to expand the abilities of RMAs to be involved in tramways. And the reason for that specifically is the Weiler Aerial Tramway, which, as you know, has been offline for a couple of years now. Because the delegation added that into our legislation, we've been negotiating. In fact, the RMA has signed an agreement with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department to assist with the design and the construction of the Weiler Aerial Tramway to get it back up and running. So we're really excited about that. I understand that Parks is going to be signing that today or very soon, so we're really excited about that. Anyhow, I think the point, though, from this second bullet, though, is to see how broad the authority of RMAs is. We can be involved in anything that involves mobility. So that's an important point to keep in mind. So if we go to the next slide. There are about, I want to say, 9 or 10 RMAs throughout the state. Of course, the Camino Real is for the El Paso region. They are very flexible agencies in that not only can we do all those projects that I listed before, We do have eminent domain powers. We can cross jurisdiction lines very easily, and that's really important in an area like El Paso, where we are up against a state and international border. That means that this particular RMA, if there were a project in New Mexico and if a partner in New Mexico wanted us to help out, we could work in New Mexico. We could also work in Mexico as well. That would help if, for example, an entity is interested in developing an international port of entry or something along those lines. We could help with that as well. We have access to all types of funds, whether it's grants, loans, or otherwise from local, state, and federal governments. We enter into interlocal agreements with county, city, other local governmental bodies very easily as well. So we're not, if an agency needs help, you don't have to procure us. We are a governmental entity, so we can just execute an interlocal agreement. So it makes it very easy to partner. We can issue bonds, implement tolls, fees, and fares for those transportation projects that we're involved in. Now, this last bullet is really important because we are an unfunded agency. So, we cannot tax, but we can receive tax proceeds or other assets or other funds from other entities. So that's a really important point as well. So we'll go to the next slide. If you could advance to slide 1. Thank you. So this particular RMA was created by the City of El Paso back in 2007. We have a board of directors of 7. The chair is appointed by the governor, and the remaining directors are appointed by City Council. So as I mentioned, jurisdictional boundaries are crossed very easily by the RMA. While the city created us, that is technically our jurisdiction, but we operate across those lines very easily. And I mentioned that last bullet point. So if we go to the next slide, we'll keep moving. We have been involved in the expenditure of over $1 billion in transportation projects in this region since 2007. We've been involved in those types of projects that are listed there. I think the most important point from this slide is that we can provide different roles. So not only are we flexible in the types of projects we can be involved in, but we're very flexible in the types of activities that we can be involved in those particular projects. So when you see there under that third bullet, we can plan a project, we can finance it, design it, construct it, operate it, maintain it, any combination, any individual one of those, or any combination thereof. So we're a really flexible organization, and I should mention, obviously, we're a resource to the region. So next slide, please. So this particular PowerPoint was provided to the TPAC a couple months ago, and we've actually had some changes here. Our chair is still Joyce Wilson. Jim Smith serves as our vice. Michael Norwich and Luis Rosas have recently been replaced with Dorothy Bird and Silvestre Reyes. We also have Nicholas Lamantia and Marco Zaragoza rounding out our board, and Patrick Byrne, of course, as well. I serve as the executive director, and Robert Studer serves as our director of finance. Next slide, please. So I'll just touch on a couple of these projects. Again, this is part of your backup, so you have it. You can spend some time with it. But again, please call me. I'm happy to meet with you individually, go into more detail, or your governing body. So if we go to the next slide, that's the State Spur 601, the inner loop. We issued $230 million in bonds to assist with TxDOT and the private developer to expedite the completion of that project. We're really excited to do that as our first project. Next slide. The 2008 CMP, this was one of the predecessors to what you all are doing now with the recent RMS. This was the original plan that we agreed to with the City of El Paso, TxDOT, the MPO, and the RMA. We were involved in several of the projects. If you go to the next slide, we can touch on a couple of those. The Americas Interchange, you're very familiar with this. I imagine out on the east side, we borrowed $30 million in State Infrastructure Bank funds to design and construct the initial 3 direct connectors, and then we designed the rest of the interchange and provided those designs over to TxDOT. That's an example of how we can provide a piece of the project or the entirety of it. So if we go to the next slide, in fact, I'm going to skip this one. Let's skip a couple of these. Go on to the next one. Yeah, so this is the 2013 El Paso County CMP, the Comprehensive Mobility Plan. This was after the 2008 plan. That one worked so well, we developed one of these plans with TxDOT, the MPO, and the county. And you see the list of projects there that are being developed by the RMA. This one was particularly interesting because the county implemented an optional vehicle registration fee, which they assigned those revenues to the RMA. We went out and issued about $106 million in bonds and have designed and constructed the majority of those projects that you see there before you. Let's go to the next slide. We do operate, and this was actually in partnership with the MPO. We were asked to look at a bike share program for the region. We implemented and continue to operate this program for the region, which is currently located mainly in downtown and all the way up to UTEP and into Mission Hills. And we're actually going to be expanding that here shortly. So next slide. Streetcar project, and you can burn through a couple of these slides as I speak. The point here is that TxDOT and the City of El Paso agreed to develop this project. The City of El Paso completed the designs for it. TxDOT brought the construction funds. They brought the dollars to the RMA. We took the plans from the city. We built the project and turned it over to Sun Metro. So that's another example of us partnering with the region. Next slide. I believe these are a couple of photos before and after. There we go. Next slide. RMS. Next slide. For this one, we're partnering with the Village of Vinton to help out with currently the design of the Valley Chili Road, and we'll help with construction when we get to that point. On I-10 widening, we've taken out another $30 million loan and provided that to TxDOT to assist with the I-10 widening project. Next slide. So here, just this is pretty much the last slide. This is a listing of some additional projects. This is not a comprehensive list, but I did want to share some of the other ones because I know many of you have seen or have been impacted by some of these improvements, and we've been involved in each of these. So anyhow, that was just a very brief overview of the RMA, what we do, what we can do, and really, again, the intent was to provide an introduction to the newer members and a reintroduction to those members that have been around a little while. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the time. Thank you, Eduardo, for putting me on the agenda. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, there's my contact information. Feel free to give me a call.
Thank you, Raymond. I don't hear any questions.
Madam Chair, if I could just make a quick comment on the Camino Real RMA. I've always been very, very proud, and I love to brag about the RMA when we compare it to other RMAs. You know, the bigger, stronger RMAs are typically associated with the toll projects, like CTRMA in Austin, which is, pretty much it was probably the first one, if I remember correctly, Raymond. But
that's right.
This RMA here in El Paso, looking at the variety of projects that they've been involved, it's been, highway projects, it's, bicycle, the trolley and all that. It really shows the flexibility, but not just that, but the ability that the RMA has to issue debt. That has been a tremendously helpful, element for our region in developing the 2008 CMP in 2013. And, we hope to continue that partnership. I mean, it's been through the years. It's been a great example of partnering the RMA with TxDOT, with the MPO, with the city on the TRZ, like you mentioned, Raymond, getting this SIB loan that will be paid with the City of El Paso's TRZ number 2, or with vehicle registration fees from the county. So, I mean, these partnerships are tremendously important, and they've been wonderful for us, throughout the years to help us, implement projects, which at the end of the day is really what we all want. So I'm proud of brag and showcase the RMA because you're too humble to do that, Raymond.
Well, thank you for your support, Eduardo. It's been super successful because there are folks like you, Eduardo, that are interested in developing innovative relationships and going after innovative funding sources and the like. So thank you.
And Eduardo, I have to completely agree. Actually, the our RMA was recently mentioned in our transportation committee because there are other communities that also want to be able to set up an RMA in their area, and you all have been incredibly helpful with regard to the tram. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, then let us move on to item 10 on our agenda.
Item 10 is El Paso Regional ITS, Intelligent Transportation System Architecture Update. And Sonia Perez will make a brief introduction, and then we'll move on to a short presentation.
Good morning. This is Sonia Perez from El Paso MPO.
The MPO is required by federal regulations to update and maintain a strategic plan for transportation systems integration in the El Paso region, known as the ITS architecture. This update has been developed in cooperation with TxDOT. So today's presentation will be made by Li Ming from ACOM, a TxDOT consultant. So I will let Ming to continue on the presentation.
Sure. Thank you, Sonia. And good morning. And my name is Ming-Chun Li, and I'm with ACOM. We have previously reported the project progress in March and October last year and to the committee. I'm happy to report that this project has been successfully completed. So today I'm going to provide a really brief summary and highlight the results and key findings of this project. Let's go to the next slide. So let me first introduce two terminologies that are essential to the project. What's ITS? Technologies that are used in transportation to save time, lives, and money are considered ITS. So what is ITS architecture? And Sonia made a brief introduction on what's ITS architecture and why is it required. And ITS architecture is a framework for ITS planning. And ITS architecture describes how current systems are interconnected, how future systems may be connected and interacted with current systems, what information is collected and shared among agencies, and what functionality each system performs. And an ITS architecture is a tool to help a region plan for an integrated ITS systems and to facilitate systematic ITS deployment and to support data and resource sharing among all the regional agencies. Let's go to the next slide. So Sonia mentioned about federal regulation. Federal regulations requires that the regional ITS architecture shall be developed to guide the development of ITS projects and programs. The previous El Paso regional ITS architecture was developed back in 2003. The purpose of this project is to bring the architecture up to current state of ITS deployment in the region and be consistent with the national ITS architecture standards. And we took advantage of several efforts that has been completed recently or currently underway within the region. And this allowed us to develop an architecture that is comprehensive, open, and flexible, and can support future ITS expansion in emerging technology such as smart city and connected vehicle technology. Next slide, please. The study area is a combined area of the TxDOT El Paso district and the El Paso MPO planning area. It includes the 6 counties within the TxDOT El Paso district and the small portions of the neighboring counties in New Mexico. Next slide, please. Stakeholders. Stakeholder participation was critical to the success of this project. And we had 2 stakeholder meetings. The first stakeholder meeting was conducted in April last year, and the second stakeholder meeting was in August. In addition to the stakeholder meetings, we also have a survey distributed to the stakeholders. And the purpose of the survey was to identify ITS needs for the region and understand their level of priority. And follow-up discussions with key stakeholders were also conducted to gather and verify their state of ITS systems, as well as help us to gain better understanding on ITS gaps and needs for the region. We also established an ITS steering committee. The committee provides leadership and guidance throughout the course of the project. The committee members also play a critical role helping us to connect with the stakeholders and encourage stakeholders to participate in the project. And as I mentioned, the architecture is somewhat complicated and contains a significant amount of information. And so before talking about how the information is captured and documented, I'm going to highlight key findings and results of the project in the next few slides. Next slide, please. The graphic shown on this slide is the ITS needs and their priorities in the region. The results of the stakeholder needs survey and interviews provided the basis for understanding the transportation problems and needs, and also helped identify ITS solutions to address them. So upon analyzing the survey responses, more than 60 ITS needs were identified, and they were prioritized and grouped into 3 levels: high priority, medium priority, and low priority. We also grouped the needs by area where ITS can provide services. And as shown on the graph, and some of the top areas that stand out include transportation safety and security, traffic management, incident emergency management, data collection and management, and asset management. Next slide, please. Using the results from the needs analysis, a total of 60 ITS projects were recommended for the region, and over 40 of them focused on improving the capability for agencies to monitor and manage traffic in order to reduce congestion and delay. And also, there's a big focus on safety and security of the traveling public and the transportation network. And we further analyzed those projects and recommended the timeline for deployment. The deployment timeframes were recommended based on several factors, including gaps in your current services, stakeholder needs and their priorities, current ITS investment and deployment, and agencies' capability in operating and maintaining the system, as well as the costs. Next slide, please. We also look at the ITS services the region currently provides, as well as compare them with the additional services that would be provided by implementing the recommended ITS projects. So this graphic shows the region has provided several ITS services to help manage traffic, reduce congestion, improve public safety and security, and improve public transportation. It also shows we still have gaps in those areas, and there are rooms and opportunities for further improvements by using technology solutions. Let's go to the next slide, please. This slide shows a number of recommended projects by implementation timeframe and service area. And we recommend that in the near term, the region should focus on low-cost projects, such as continuing expanding and enhancing your current systems. And we also suggest that recommend the regions to start looking into emerging technology applications, such as connected vehicle technology, and start with pilot projects on applications that can address some of the high priority needs. For the medium term, the region can focus on implementing the recommendations from TxDOT's Transportation Systems Management and Operations, or TSMO, program plan, as well as addressing some of the important traveler safety concerns along key corridors. For longer term, the region will focus on continue building upon successes from short and medium term projects and gradually introduce new technology. Let's go to the next slide. This is, I think I only have about 12 slides. This is slide number 10. So in terms of documentation, the regional ITS architecture is documented in 3 forms: a project report, a website, and a database. The report provides a summary of the architecture and describes how stakeholders can use the architecture for planning and developing ITS projects. We also discuss funding opportunities for ITS and identify a list of potential funding sources in the report. The report also recommends a process for maintaining the architecture to ensure it stays current. In terms of the website, the website documents the details of the architecture. It provides a common portal for stakeholders to access the information for project planning, analysis, and development. And the website will reside within the MPO website, and we are currently working with Sonia, with the MPO staff, to set up the website and we expect the website will be ready for use in a few weeks. Next slide, please. And I mentioned about the database. The database stores all details of the architecture. The database is developed using a software tool called Radit, R-A-D-I-T. And Radit is developed by the U.S. Department of Transportation for the sole purpose of developing ITS architectures. And also to help report the architecture status and track ITS progress, a set of performance metrics was developed. A performance metrics dashboard was also created to display the metrics graphically. The charts in many of the previous slides you see in this presentation were taken directly from the dashboard. And the performance metrics and the dashboard will be posted on the architecture website. Next slide. And so talking about the funding, the architecture is a tool for high-level ITS planning. It does not directly identify funding sources for recommended project. In other words, this is not a financially constrained plan. So how are we going to fund those projects given the financial constraints we are facing? ITS projects included in the architecture would qualify for several categories of federal highway and transit funding. In general, highway-related ITS projects are most likely be funded with STP, or Service Transportation Program funds, and dedicated for the El Paso region, or with the CMAQ funds. Transit-related ITS projects will likely be funded with 5307 and CMAQ funds. And there are also several potential opportunities to overcome the funding constraints for technology projects. And here's a long list on the slide. While the architecture is not financially constrained plan, as I mentioned, the architecture report itself does contain a section that discusses potential funding sources for ITS and types of ITS projects that may be eligible for those sources. So this section in the report is a valuable resources for stakeholders seeking financial resources for ITS projects. And next slide. So just to conclude my presentation, I'm happy to report that we have successfully achieved the project goals, and the updated architecture is comprehensive. It conforms with the federal requirements, and it supports the implementation of the recommended ITS projects. And as such, it supports a region with an integrated approach for ITS deployment and maintains the eligibility for using federal dollars for ITS projects. And so thank you very much for having the opportunity to present this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Hearing no questions, we can now move on to item 11.
All right. Item 11 is the RMS 2050 Travel Demand Model Status Report. Salvador Gonzalez from MPO is going to open up.
Yes, good morning, everybody. This is Salvador Gonzalez with the MPO. For the TDM progress report, we would like to briefly show you the enhanced summary report tool with its new dynamic features, or I should say the first set of dynamic features. For this, we have Zaina Wafa from Cambridge Systematics. And Marisol, if you can allow Cambridge to share the screen. Zaina, if you can take it away.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zaina Wafa with Cambridge Systematics, the consultant working on updating the El Paso travel demand model. You've probably already seen a few presentations on the development, calibration, and validation of the model. This presentation focuses on the summary reporting tool. So we developed the summary report for the Destino model as a means of summarizing model outputs in a visual and dynamic manner. Summaries are displayed in chart or tabular form that can be easily transferred into Excel for further processing or to report and documents the MPO or other consultants may prepare. And because the summary report is built in HTML, it can be easily transferred via email without having to install any software or plugins. You just need a browser. The summary report is customizable. In fact, while developing the report for the Destino model, we coordinated with the MPO to understand which performance measures they frequently calculated, and we helped them automate that process. Right now, we are working on a quick summary that contains a condensed version of the performance measures summary, conveniently located in one place that we can easily reference. Both the performance measures and the quick summary can be used to compare between different scenarios, especially in support of alternatives analysis while developing the MTP. I can move on to demonstrating the report if there aren't any questions. Okay. So this is what the report looks like. It has different sections. In the interest of time, I'll just demonstrate maybe a couple sections, but I can definitely go through the rest if there's interest. So one very dynamic and visual report is the trip length frequency distribution. This section plots the trip lengths by trip purpose. The cool feature in the summary is that it is dynamic, so we can toggle between trip purposes. For example, if you just want to isolate home-based work, we can just turn off the other trip purposes and look at the trip length frequency distribution. Or maybe you want to compare two different trip purposes, so maybe home-based work and maybe home-based education too, which is college or university trips, and we can compare between the two trip length frequency distributions. Another very useful tool is the pin button. So for example, if we want to compare college trips daily versus off-peak, we can just use this pin button and then we have it saved here. We can just toggle the trips again, do the same for off-peak, pin it, and just toggle the trips and look at, these are not very different. Maybe education one would be a better, and look at the difference in trip length frequency distributions between time periods. So that's a nifty feature right there. The data table is also included under the trip length frequency distribution. So the table could be copied using this button right here and pasted into Excel, and you can recreate these trip length frequency distributions in Excel. Another very useful section that we've used extensively while validating the model is this vehicle validation section, which effectively just shows us how close the modeled volumes or the modeled vehicle miles traveled are to observed traffic counts. So for that, we have different tables, percent root mean square error, but also a very dynamic feature of this report is this scatter plot right here. We can look at how close the modeled volumes are to the counts. This y equal x line over here, just in a perfect model validation, all the points should line up on this line, but no model is perfectly validated. We can definitely toggle between different facility types. So we can look at freeways alone, for example. I mean, this is pretty good. Obviously, we can see a few points that are right on the line versus other points that are that seem way off in terms of modeled volumes versus counts. We did check these outliers, and we did find that the model did well on either side of these counts. And because the issues were very isolated to these count locations, we determined that the validation was good enough. And you can also, look at arterials. Arterials validate better, and then you have others, which include collectors and frontage roads, etc. This is, I'll also show the quick summary, which is still a work in progress. This is being developed in coordination with the MPO, just trying to figure out which metrics they normally include in their summary reporting, and just making sure that they have all of these metrics in one place so that they can easily refer to them. So I think that's it. I'd gladly go over any other section that you find interesting, and I can take any questions that you may have.
Thank you for your report. We can now move on to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, item number 11 is the RMS, I'm sorry, excuse me, item 12, the Regional Mobility Strategy, RMS 2020 Project Development Status Report. I'll take this one. This is the monthly report, same as last month. There's a lot of information there on all the projects that made it to the RMS 2020. We are reporting every month on project development activities. Projects are moving well. I mean, especially the ones that are approaching their letting date, like Rojas that was mentioned in the report earlier today. I mean, that one is approaching. There are some issues that everybody's working hard to resolve, but we don't see any major complications as far as meeting our deadlines. This information is in your backup, so feel free to take a look and let us know if you have any comments or questions regarding this.
Eduardo, now we can go to your executive director's reports covering A, B, C, and D.
Okay, thank you. So Executive Director's Report A, the Texas Transportation Committee, February 25th, 2021. So just to report briefly that at the TTC meeting, two things happened that are relevant to El Paso. One, the RMA, as Raymond Tellez mentioned earlier today, the RMA got final approval for a $30 million SIB loan that will be paid back with Transportation Reinvestment Zone number 2 funds from the city of El Paso. Those funds are going to be provided to TxDOT to support the project on I-10 on the west side, the widening between Mesa and New Mexico state line. And that will allow TxDOT to pull out Category 2 funds that can be used for other projects in the region. Again, I just want to highlight, like I said earlier, the partnership that this example really showcases between the city, TxDOT, the RMA, and we as an MPO support all of these changes, and of course we'll do all the procedural stuff of swapping the funds in our TIP, MTP, and so on. The other interesting thing that happened in February was that the Borderland Expressway, or the piece on the Texas side, was officially designated a State Spur 320 on the state highway system. Not that the number means anything special, but I think it's a big deal that the project is now in the state highway system. It's a major, it's an important step. But again, it shows that our priority projects are moving forward. So I was very excited to see that happening. The next item, which is a New Mexico-Chihuahua Border Master Plan. Again, just to let you all know that in parallel or at the same time that Texas is doing the Border Master Plan, the state of New Mexico is doing the same one. And of course, we are in the middle of both, right? Especially the Santa Teresa area is sort of like sandwiched between the two plans, and we participate actively on both. We want to make sure that there is consistency in the information that is provided to New Mexico as well as to Texas. So that's just an FYI. Next thing is the Border Trade Advisory Committee meeting that was held 2 weeks ago. Again, the highlight of that meeting was that we got the final glimpse of the Texas-Mexico Border Transportation Master Plan, which was actually presented yesterday to the commission, and it got final approval. So A lot of effort, a lot of time spent on the Border Master Plan, the BTAC, and the local, regional steering committees as well spent a lot of time on this. And so we're happy to report that the plan was approved. And now TxDOT is moving forward with the next phase of the Border Master Plan, which is more of an implementation plan or implementation phase of all the actions that were identified. So we'll be obviously participating very actively on that second phase, and we'll be reporting, and many of you will be asked also to continue participating on that. And then finally, just a report that on March 16th, the Transportation Committee of the House of Representatives in Texas, of which our chair, Lina Ortega, is a member of that committee. There was a hearing on March 16th to receive comments on several bills, including the bill that Rep. Ortega is sponsoring, which is House Bill 156, that talks about the El Paso County's optional vehicle registration fee. It's another up to $10 fee. So I was there to provide comments in support of that, along with Sal Alonso from the county as well. So just to let you know that we were there, and we're hoping, Rep. Ortega, that bill moves forward. We'll look forward to that. And I don't know if you want to mention anything else on that end.
Well, actually, yes. This week, the bill, and thank you for the testimony that you provided, as well as letters that were presented from this committee and the testimony by the county. That bill was passed favorably out of committee unanimously. So it is now being sent to our calendars committee to hopefully get it laid out on the House floor. So we are moving forward.
Excellent, great. So as far as the report, Madam Chair, that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Eduardo, it looks like we don't have any questions, and I want to thank everyone that made a presentation, the various reports. They were very informative, and they were great presentations. And we have one remaining item on our agenda, which is adjournment. Is there at this time a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn. Hernandez.
A second?
Second, Lizárraga.
All right. Is there anyone not in favor of the motion? Hearing none, then the motion is approved and we are officially adjourned. Thank you all for attending today, and I apologize for the bad connection.
Thank you. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Friday.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good